guys, welcome back to my channel. Oh my god, I'm looking like an Easter egg right now with these pastels. Yeah, that was planned. It was totally planned. Anyway, welcome back to my channel. So, I haven't done a releases video in quite a number of months, and two reasons. Partly, they just got really tedious to film and edit, and I'm gonna be honest, I just didn't enjoy doing them. And the second part is, for all of you guys who watch those videos and end up buying way more books because I added so many books to your TBR, yeah, it's like tenfold for me because doing these videos, I'm scrolling through all of the releases that are coming out and just adding stuff to my Amazon cart, and it's a problem. So since I've been doing really well this year of not buying books, I might as well start, right? These are going to be slightly different. My old ones, I tended to talk about all of the really big titles, like the really big author releases, the sequels that are coming out, and then discuss 5 of like slightly underhyped ones, or just 5 that I was personally most excited about. I'm gonna do it a little bit differently this time, just to kind of like help future editing me out. I have a list of 10 books. Why am I doing this to myself? I don't know. I have a list of 10 books specifically that I just want to talk about, and they are kind of covering all genres, and it's gonna give you guys kind of a more recent glimpse into what my taste is right now, because I feel like since I started these videos, my taste specifically has changed so much, and I felt like I was kind of losing touch with books that I was really excited about when I was filming these videos, just because I don't read that much YA anymore, and I don't read that much like YA fantasy anymore, so a lot of the books that I know you guys want me to talk about weren't books that I was excited about, so this is just gonna be 10 books that Chelsea is interested in. Let's get started, because it's going to be a long. I don't know how to talk about 10 books in a reasonable length video, so buckle up. I'm going to go somewhat in release date order, but most of them are releasing on the 7th or like the 30th. Like, you're getting the first Tuesday of April and the last Tuesday of April, which honestly, at this rate, with the state of the world right now, you're not getting any of these books till May anyway, so it doesn't matter. Okay, so the first book, we're going to kick it off with one that I had never heard of, and I feel like just is very fitting for the tone of my life right now, because it seems all over the place. And that is called The Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires by Grady Hendrix. That is, yeah, that's a title and a half, am I right? Because that title alone makes me want to read this book. But this is set in the 90s, and I don't know about you guys, but I've been struggling with like focusing on reading or just anything, and I've been turning to a lot of like comfort stuff, and for me, nostalgic things are very comforting to me, whether it's like well-loved books that I already know, or things that remind me of my childhood, and I am a 90s kid, so anything that is going to be set in the 90s, I feel like is gonna like get me through this like weird reading slump that the world is going through. But this is set in the 90s in Charleston, and it follows a woman who is down there and is kind of just stuck in a rut with her life, and she ends up going to a book club, and it's like the highlight of her life. Like, she looks forward to going to these meetings every month and talking about books and just talking about like the social climate of Charleston at that point in time. When a new person moves to town and people start going missing, and this little tiny Southern Ladies Book Club starts to like investigate all of these missing people, and they think it's gonna be like the next Ted Bundy or like Jeffrey Dahmer or something, and I think it's gonna take a paranormal twist, and I am so stupid excited about this book. Like, this just seems like the happiest, like, cozy mystery mixed with like 90s fun and like vampire stuff. I don't know, it just seems like a good mixture of happy things to read right now. So this one is coming out on the 7th. Figured I'd kick the video off with that. Okay, we're gonna take a turn. I have a lot of heavy books mixed in with this. I don't know why, but that's generally my taste. I tend to lean pretty heavily into like really dark stories, and there's a lot coming out in April, and a lot of them are fairly similar, which are all things that are appealing to me, and you guys are gonna like question my sanity when I start talking about all these books. But the next one that's coming out on April 7th is called Meadowlark. This is by Melanie Abrams, and first of all, this cover is what grabbed me. I love it a lot. But this sounds pretty heavy. This follows basically 2 people, and I don't know if it's going to be flashbacks in present time or if we're just going to know their previous story prior to starting their current story. But this basically follows 2 people who, when they were teenagers, were part of like a religious commune in like the desert of Nevada. And one of them escapes. Her name is Simran, and she has kind of gone on to move on from this like traumatic childhood experience and live her own life. And her best friend from the commune kind of gets in touch with her, and she realizes that he is now the commune leader of Meadowlark, which is the commune that they both were a part of as teenagers. And he kind of invites her to come back, and I have a feeling it's going to be kind of like a weird grooming situation to get her to be a part of the cult again. I don't know if it's a cult. I don't really know what the actual commune is, but I know it was traumatic to them, and one moved on and escaped, and the other went deeper into it. She gets contacted by him and invited back. She kind of takes that as an opportunity to like further her career because she is now a photojournalist. So she takes that as a chance to go to the desert of Nevada to at least like document the whole thing. It just sounds really intriguing. This is one that I kind of glimpsed through the synopsis, and that's basically what I know from it, and it really seems like something I just kind of want to go into blind. But this is not the first book on this list that has to deal with like cults and communes and things like that. For some reason, there's a lot of books coming out right now about it, and I'm just interested. Those are things that are always interesting to me, so this one seems interesting. Next book I want to talk about is taking a turn back to paranormal. I'm just going to bounce around with genres as I go here. The next book is Crave by Tracy Wolfe. I feel like this book could be a complete freaking mess, and I'm here for it. First of all, look at this cover. We are going back to Twilight days with this cover, especially based on the plot. Like, the cover alone is just like very reminiscent of like early 2000s vampire books. And that's what it is, and I kind of want it. This is literally following a girl who goes to an academy of elite immortal vampires and falls in love with one of them who is a dark, broody, 100-year-old sexy man person, and they just fit well together, but then she starts to realize that she might have been invited to this academy as bait. So if it turns out to be just a really good, cheesy paranormal romance, I'm here for it. If it turns out to be something a little different that turns the genre on its head and is new and exciting, I'm also here for it. Like I said, I'm just really feeling the like need to go back to like comfort reads, and honestly, PNR is a thing that just brings me so much joy, and for some reason this book is just calling my name, so this one's also coming out on the 7th. Taking another turn, the next book that comes out on the 7th is a book that just seems like super intriguing to me. It's probably just gonna be for me specifically because this has been something that I've always been interested in. And that book is called Sin Eater by Megan Campisi, I think is how you say it. Sin eating has been something that for some reason is a buzzword for me. I've read so many books about sin eaters and just the whole concept of it, and it's a legitimate thing that like existed in our history. There's a lot of folklore about it, but the basic gist of sin eating is that somebody has this role, whether it's like a sought after prestigious role or if it's a punishment. I feel like it's portrayed both ways, but basically a person ends up becoming a sin eater, and they have to eat symbolized food that represents the sins of other people before they die so that they can go into the afterlife without these sins, if that makes sense. So it's like this separate person who has to have this weird feast of bizarre foods that all symbolize crimes of another person so that that person can live a happily ever after thing. That's kind of the basis of sin eating, and that's always been fascinating to me, whether it's done in a fantasy setting, whether it's done in a historical setting, and this book is kind of both. I want to read like the first tagline of the synopsis for you guys because that's basically what hooked me. It's a little long, but it's just a sentence. It says, "The Handmaid's Tale meets Alice in Wonderland in this gripping and imaginative historical novel about a shunned orphan girl in 16th century England who is ensnared in the deadly royal plot and must turn her subjugation into her power." That's a lot to unpack from just one sentence in the tagline. So it's following a girl who I think is sentenced to a life of being a sin eater because she was caught stealing bread. And it turns into this whole plot of like a governess who didn't confess to a sin, but the food symbolism of whatever she didn't confess to showed up, and it's like this big controversy of like this girl who is refusing to eat the sin that wasn't confessed. It sounds fascinating. And again, it was kind of my goal this year to read stuff that's somewhat out of my comfort zone. Historical fiction is seriously out of my comfort zone, so this one just sounds intriguing to me. It sounds pretty dark. It covers topics that are always interesting to me, so this one's also on the 7th if you guys want to pick it up and, I don't know, experience this weird thing with me. All right, the next book that I want to talk about is a YA contemporary, like a dark contemporary, that is called Rules for Being a Girl by Candace Bushnell and Katie Cotugno, which you guys might recognize their names. They're pretty well-known authors. But this sounds pretty heavy, and this sounds like it's going to follow kind of in the line of like Moxie or any of those really good like feminist type of stories. It's going to like be really empowering, I think. But this basically follows a girl who is in school who thinks she has a really good relationship with, I think, her English teacher or writing teacher, and he starts to come on to her, and that's obviously not okay, and she kind of rebels against it, and he just starts taking it out on her. So she turns to the school newspaper to start kind of reporting what's going on, and I have a feeling it's going to be one of those just like super infuriating novels where, like, as you're reading it, you're just really, really angry for the characters, but it's also going to be a really hopeful and empowering story. God, I hope so. But I feel like books like this have been coming out more and more, and I feel like they're so important, and I'm so glad that stories like this are being told right now, because they happen. Shit like this goes down in the real world, so it's kind of a cool story to see. God forbid somebody in the real world is going through something similar and needs to see, like, a good heroine in a story and how to handle it. So this sounds great. It's probably going to be really heavy and really frustrating, but hopefully really, really well done. So I'm excited for that one as well. All right, the last April 7th release before I move on to other dates is Godshot by Chelsea Beaker. She's got a great first name, let me say. But this is going to take me back to the cult thing. For some reason, there's a couple books coming out in April that are all somewhat in that vibe, and I'm here for it. This one is taking place in California, though, and it's kind of like a mother-daughter duo who are our main characters in this. And I believe they're going through a drought, and they basically lived on, like, an agricultural paradise, and for some reason there's, like, a really, really bad drought happening. I have a feeling we're going to bring up climate change in this, which is going to be interesting to see how it's handled. But this story kind of takes a turn because they end up turning to a cult leader who has these mysterious missions that people can do to bring rain back to the community. So he's, like, really pulling on people's heartstrings. And I feel like it's gonna be a really messed up story, but it's on so many people's lists as, like, want to read, or the reviews have been really, really good. I think the synopsis goes longer than that, but basically that's all I needed to see to hook me. Anything with, like, cult leaders and, like, communes and things like that are just so interesting to me. So this one sounds like it's going to be fairly realistic with, like, the brainwashing and all of the things. So I'm very intrigued by that. So this is the last April 7th release that I have to talk about. Let's move on to another date. Moving on to the 21st of April. This is going to be a lighter, fluffier story. God, I hope. We've got a YA contemporary called Verona Comics by Jennifer Dugan, the author of Hot Dog Girl. I didn't hear the best stuff about. I personally didn't read it, but I have hopes for her second novel. This just sounds super fluffy and cute. I believe it's a queer romance that takes place in an indie comic shop in Verona, and it's a slight Romeo and Juliet retelling, and it just sounds precious. This totally sounds like the type of story that we need right now, just something light and fluffy and happy and nerdy and queer. So this one is coming on the 21st, so again, you'll probably get it in May. The next book that's coming out on the 21st, I feel like it's going to be a challenging one for me for a lot of different reasons. That is called Kept Animals by Kate Milliken. This it grabbed me because of the cover. I thought it was going to be nonfiction. It's not, but I feel like it's going to be a pretty harrowing story. So this is following 3 teenagers set kind of on a ranch in, like, the deserts of California. And it's equestrians, so that's interesting to me. I'm gonna see how that's handled. As a horse girl, that's always something that I'm curious about. I'm drawn to horse books like that, but can also be infuriating for me. But it seems like these 3 teenagers come from all different walks of life. Like, we have a really elite show jumper, horse trainer person. We have some people who are, like, somewhat poverty stricken. We have one who is, like, middle class. I think we are covering, like, all the classes in this. And as the story is unfolding, I think we're supposed to kind of uncover their relationships to each other, like whether they're romantically involved, whether they hate each other, whether they're friends. And it seems like all of this kind of hinges around the wildfires that took place in Topanga Canyon. Is that what it's from? Is that what it's called? Yeah, in Topanga, because that stood out to me from Boy Meets World, in Topanga Canyon in 1993. So this is, like, slightly historical, but this whole book is actually being told from the perspective of the daughter of one of these people. And she's kind of uncovering everything that happened to her mom and her mom's other 2 friends, enemies, lovers, we don't know yet. So I think it's going to be interesting with how the story unravels, because it seems like we're going to be getting, I don't know if we're getting flashbacks or if it's all going to be told as her daughter is, like, uncovering her mom's story, but her mom is away as, like, a war photographer. So I've got a lot of similar themes in this book. We have a lot of, like, photojournalism, we have a lot of, like, California and cults and hard-hitting stories. I don't know why these are the books that are standing out to me, but they are. But this one, it just sounds like it's going to be really, like, poignant and heavy, I guess. But it seems like all of this story and these relationships kind of get formed around these wildfires, which I feel like is also going to be very relevant given all of the current events that have happened in California with the fires and stuff over the past couple of years. So It's gonna be an interesting story. I'm intrigued by it. It seems really cool. Okay, moving on to the 30th of April. I have 2 more books that I want to talk about. The first one is The Switch by Beth OLeary. This is the author who wrote The Flatshare, which I still haven't read. I know I need to. I know a lot of people love it, a lot of people hate it. I'm intrigued by it still, but this is her second book that she's coming out with, and it sounds precious. So, I thought it was going to be a very similar vibe. I think she really likes writing 2 very different types of viewpoints in her stories, because this one is following a 20-something-year-old person who is just giving up on her life in the city in London and is just getting frustrated with the dating scene, and it's following her grandmother who is about to turn 80 years old and is looking for love. So they, I think, switch places. Like our young protagonist goes to her grandmother's little cottage in the countryside to like get a break from everything, and the little 79, almost 80-year-old grandmother is going to her flat in London and is experiencing online dating for the first time. And it sounds like it's gonna be so stinking wholesome and adorable. And I just can't wait to see both of their perspectives. That seems like such a fun little story. So this one's coming at the end of April. All right, and I'm gonna end this video on another doozy of a book that is like drastically switching genres again, but again, kind of deals with stuff that's in tones in other books. I don't know what this is. But that last book is Goldilocks by Laura Lam. And this cover just grabbed me. Everything about this is just grabbing me. It is a sci-fi story, but I think it's gonna be heavy. So this is basically kind of the stereotypical sci-fi story that's very popular right now. The Earth is in environmental collapse and humanity is struggling to survive and relocate to a place that we didn't ruin. And this book is following Valerie, who is spearheading the very first all-female flight into the Goldilocks zone, which is an area, I don't know if it's like a group of planets or what it is, but it's the first area that seems livable for human life. And it's an all-woman crew who is like pioneering their way into space to save humanity. So it seems awesome. The little blurb said it's a mix between The Martian and The Handmaid's Tale. Again, another Handmaid's Tale reference. I had a good tone going in this video. I don't know why all these books are interconnecting, but it just seems super awesome. I feel like it's gonna be a really cool feminist sci-fi story about a whole woman crew on a spaceship traveling to this new planet to save humanity, and it sounds bitchin'. I'm excited for this one. So this one's also coming on the 30th of April. And those are all the books I want to talk about. Was that 10? I think that was 10. I hope you guys like this. If you guys want me to keep doing these, I'm probably gonna mix up the format every month. I'm gonna see how it goes. But also, if you guys would like to see other books that I'm excited about, I'm starting to make Goodreads shelves on like my Goodreads page of releases that I either have arcs for that I've read or ones that I'm just excited about. So all of these books are gonna be on that list plus a bunch more. If you guys are curious, if you have similar reading taste to me, go check out those shelves because there's gonna be a plethora of books in addition to these ones. So that's gonna be it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know what you guys are looking forward to in the upcoming months as far as books go, because God knows I need to add more to my TBR, right? So that's gonna be it. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys in my next video.